My reasons being disagreements with management and company direction.
That's crazy.
It's not really about them. It's kind of about the positions that they're in.
With the Gura graduation announcement, a bunch of people came out to give their takes on the whole issue. These takes usually fell into one of two camps, and these would be the doom posting camp or the copium camp. And it does seem like the doom posting side was a bit more vocal about things because Gura is seen as the face of VTubing on the West, especially after she mentioned in her announcement that the reason she would graduate was because
Disagreements with management.
Disagreement with management.
He said it! He said it!
by now the entire disagreement with management thing is a bit of a meme, but we can mostly understand that it could be any sort of issue with management, from simple frustrations to having to deal with Japanese bureaucracy, game perms, or simply just not wanting to deal with a more restrictive management style that comes with working with a Japanese company. Additionally, any sort of contract dispute due to possibly a talent wanting a higher profit share could also be included as one of these disagreements with management. So basically, you can think of any big or small issue that you as a person might have with your work that you are tired of dealing with and that might eventually cause you to leave and change work. So basically anything from money, wanting to have more freedom, or simply wanting to do something new. Callie also mentioned this.
I know that I don't know, but in general, it's never one thing, is what I have heard and what I understand. Disagreements with management it's a bit of a catch-all. That kind of encompasses all reasons that someone may not want to stay anymore.
Of course, the whole disagreements with management was something that many people focused on. Additionally, many creators seem to have hopped on the anti-corporate bandwagon.
So this is what happens with a lot of these content creators, is that they have a relationship with a company that is like predatory and exploitative.
And just kind of talk why I think VTuber agencies are fucking terrible.
Two of these were Tectone and Asmongold, and I would like to focus this video around what they said. For the purpose of the video, I would be using the big three as an example, as they were the three companies that were mentioned in the clips. When people describe these corporations as exploitative, it all comes to three main issues. The first one being the ownership of IP, the second one being talent freedom, and the third one being the revenue split. So first, the IP ownership. IP ownership is a fairly complicated issue and possibly why people like Tectone and Asmongold hate corporations. This is something that has been painted as a bad practice from idol culture, but it's not really a part of idol culture as people know the talent's face and their name. This is something strictly related to VTubing, as Vtubers are often anonymous. Hell, one of the biggest appeals of being a Vtuber is the anonymity factor. Vtubers can choose to play a character without having to deal with people knowing who they are. This is something that isn't really an issue with characters in the real world because you know the face of the person behind that character. You know that Johnny Depp is Jack Sparrow, even when Johnny doesn't own the rights to Jack Sparrow as a character. Now, VTubing as a whole is a fairly new medium, and one of the things that people are trying to change is that they want to get rid of restrictions where a talent can leave a company and they can possibly link their previous persona back to any new work they do, or include it as part of the resume for future work. As it stands, keeping the talent's previous life hidden from or having the talent any sort of reference to their previous life only helps corporations have more control over the talents. And before any of this is fixed on a legal landscape, which might be happening soon, we at least have some changes on the social landscape, which seem to be for the better. This is especially after what happened in Nijisanji with Cyan and Selene. Due to this massive drama, people are more willing to look into their talent's past life, and in a case the talent leaves, people are also more open to discuss their new identity. Additionally, some of the newer and smaller companies are more open to talents buying out their accounts and having rights to the character as they leave. Simply because one of the biggest taboos when it comes to VTubing is companies cannot really recast the character. So if a talent leaves, it makes no sense for the company to keep the character as it's basically dead. Tectone and Asmongold both mentioned VShojo as a corporation that doesn't really do any of this. They just let the talents keep their whole IP.
And I think that like some companies, like for example, I know like Vshoujo, for example, I believe allows you to retain the rights of your IP after you leave the org.
Vshoujo's probably the least bad, because at least you get to keep your identity.
Now, this is only possible because when it comes to VShojo, all of the founding members were massive VTubers from Twitch. Even after VShojo started including quote-unquote new talents, we all know that these fairly huge creators are talents from Nijisanji and Hololive, who already also had a massive following, so anywhere that they would go, they would bring that massive following with them. Now, VShojo has a new Japanese wave with mostly new talents that are being brought up from scratch, and so far we're not really aware if the same IP rules apply to them, or if the entire profit share model they used to have with their other talents is the same. We also don't know if there's some sort of time requirement for the talents to keep their IP, or if they could just jump ship from day one. Without taking into consideration the new Japanese talents, I guess that this could be one of the biggest differences between VShojo and Hololive. Now, on the second aspect I want to talk about is talent freedom. This is another one of those issues that is like a double-edged sword, and I don't think there really is a right or wrong to both aspects. And this is the one aspect that is the biggest crossover from idol culture, and up to a certain point, I think it's not really a completely bad thing to have.
VTubers cannot get into drama. If you are a VTuber and you get into drama, you are fucked. You will be excommunicated, you will be blacklisted, and no one will communicate with you whatsoever. Every VTuber needs to go live with a happy face, say that everything's fine, everything's dandy, unless the drama they're going to bring up is for sympathy to bait people into giving them more super chats.
Tectone mentions drama and how corporate VTubers tend to avoid drama as much as possible, but it makes sense. When it comes to corporate VTubing, the brand image is an extremely important part. Corporations like Hololive are basically as big as they are because of the prestige the brand has. This is the reason why whenever a new talent wave is announced, you know that the members will be good. And to do this, of course, there has to be strict NDAs set in place, and there have to be some guidelines as to what a talent can't and can't do, so that the brand will appeal as to many people as possible. For example, when it comes to Hololive, one of the biggest drama incidents was when Hachama and Coco talked about Taiwan.
And 4.7%, 4.7% Taiwan. Taiwan?
アメリカ 11%、で台湾 7%って感じか。なるほどね。
While it was something extremely stupid and inoffensive, as them showing a viewer breakdown by country and the YouTube analytics showing that Taiwan was one of the biggest countries with viewers, many people in China chose to have a spurg out. The issue was so bad that it caused the company to drop sponsors in Chinese companies, and they dropped their Bilibili contract. This is why talents often avoid controversial topics like politics, race, and religion, as getting a bit too deep into any of these might cause problems with viewers and may alienate a good portion of the fanbase. Now, I would assume that Tectone and Asmongold might be of the opinion that nothing at the time would have been nicer to see than having Coco or Hashima tell the entire country of China to
Fool yourself.
But when you have a huge company with a bunch of employees and a bunch of business and merchandise deals going on, it's often best to stick your tongue up your own ass to avoid creating more drama. And of course, this is something Asmongold has hinted to have done in the past to avoid hurting the OTK company. Additionally, these companies are also based in Japan, so they have to deal with many Japanese laws that might not apply to people on an individual level. Now, VShojo is based around the whole talent freedom mantra. So while it's somewhat refreshing to see talents clap back against the haters and people that criticize them, sometimes those talents tend to girl boss a bit too close to the sun, and they end up hurting the brand. Seeing talents talk about abortion rights or Orange Man bad might push away a large group of people, and hell, some of the talents that have left Nijisanji and joined VShojo even talk about wanting to have certain restrictions placed upon them because they know that they are more comfortable knowing where their boundaries lie. There are many aspects to this whole talent freedom, and from an American point of view, we tend to value freedom of speech. But when you are operating under a company, sometimes freedom of speech can f you over. How many indie VTubers have you seen where they say the stupidest shit, they double down, and suddenly they lose all the sponsors, they lose most of their viewership, and they just crash and burn into obscurity? And as a whole final point related to the whole talent freedom argument, I would also like to talk about how creativity usually flourishes when there is necessity or scarcity. This is something that many people have criticized Kaysen for. Despite having more talent freedom now, as she did under Hololive, people often mention how she is not as creative. Despite having way more talent freedom, it does feel like she has chosen to be way more conservative with her content creation. I am sure that there is less of a burden upon her now that she doesn't have as much red tape, but ironically, things do feel a bit more sanitized.
So sometimes when it comes to an organization, if it's too chaotic and too free, the lack of structure can feel like it's confusing.
And finally, the revenue split.
The fact is that VTubers make the org doesn't make the VTuber.
Hopefully this will lead to more VTubers leaving big corporations that were taking massive cut of their earnings. VTubers make the orgs, not the other way around.
When it comes to VShojo, the talents make the agency. And when it comes to Hololive, the agency makes the talent. If anyone wants any examples of this, we can look at Uamoko. Uamoko used to previously stream under their Go-Go Nippon personas, and they debuted back in July 30, 2021. Honestly speaking, their content or their personality hasn't really changed that much. Despite being tied to an already existing IP, they managed to hit 10,000 subs on YouTube on April 23, 2022. Under their new Hololive persona, within 12 hours of the trailer dropping, they already had 100,000 subscribers. And on July 30th, 2023, one day before they debut, they had already hit 200,000 subscribers. There have been VTubers that have been grinding every single day for 5 years who don't even have a fraction of that number of subscribers. Yet these girls had not even started streaming and they were already at 200,000. Currently, after almost 2 years, the girls have 1 million followers on YouTube and they are one of the top super chatted channels, including all of Hololive branches. Now, when it comes to revenue split, I usually like to compare it to how countries operate. A country with a more socialized system in place will take a higher cut of taxes out of the people. And with that, you're all probably calling me a communist. But anyways, I understand why people might be adverse to that type of model when in 2024, more than 20 corporations operating using that same model crashed and burned. Hell, we've Nijisanji, who's the second biggest corporation at this moment, and part of the reason why people consider the model predatory is because many of the talents that have left the company have talked about how bad it was to work for them and how little support they got from management, which should be the main reason why the revenue split is there, for you to have management and have them help you out. But when the company is taking a cut and the company is not really helping you back, then why are they even taking a cut? When it comes to Hololive so far, we haven't really gotten any evidence of this happening. Even the talents that have been fired from the company haven't really come out and talked negatively about it. And yes, on my last video, I did cover some instances of talents talking about how management messed up, but it seems to be more of a smaller individual type of case and not something that's prevalent in the whole company. And to finally showcase how VShojo and Hololive differ, according to some of the talents, VShojo doesn't take a revenue cut from the talents. But I am not sure if this applies to the newer talents. And finally, I would like to compare VShojo and Hololive as to show how they differ from each other. VShojo has 17 active talents and 32 employees. The company was founded in 2020, and so far they have only produced one big concert and a couple of smaller events. Meanwhile, Hololive has 90 active talents, 537 employees, and in addition to this, Hololive has had major concerts and events, plus every single talent has appeared in either a 3D showcase or one of these concerts. Hololive also invested in a 3D mocap studio, and they were also currently looking to create some metaverse type of world where they can host virtual concerts. Additionally, Hololive also has a fairly robust management staff, and all the talents get a base salary.
Final note for now, if Guru is saying it's bad for her, you need to understand that it's even worse for lesser known VTubers in the Hololive's roster. Those who don't have the massive outreach and popularity that she does, again, support independent VTubers.
So this is the part where I can safely say that what Tectone said might not be right regarding to the less popular talents. Despite there being talents that might not be as popular, these talents will still get new outfits, they will still get birthday events, they will get merchandise, and they will get to do 3D concerts. So given the revenue split, you could argue that the biggest talents are the ones that have it the worst because more of their money or of their earnings goes towards the group pot. VShojo, on the other hand, doesn't seem to have that safety net, and the content creator will live or die based on their own merits. Additionally, VShojo as a company doesn't seem to host as many events as Hololive. VShojo is nowhere as big as Hololive, and I would really love to know if the amount someone like Kayson earned on their Hololive is comparable or not to now that she's in VShojo. Do I think Hololive is a black company? Well, no. Do I think it's exploitative of them to have a cut of the revenue? Again, no. Not with what they seem to provide the talents. Do I think that there might possibly be some things that can change for the better? Or possibly some fixes that management can have so that talents can keep working for the company? Yes. And I understand where the doom posting comes from. And it seems to me that something in Hololive did change back in late 2023 or early in 2024, because graduations were extremely rare, but it now seems to be the norm. I don't think Hololive as a company is really doing poorly, and all evidence seems to show the opposite. But as a fan, I feel like there are only so many graduations and
Disagreement with management.
that people can take until they stop supporting the company. Especially when some of these members that have been with the corporation the longest are the ones that are quitting. This is why I'm extremely critical of all of the 20 or so small corporations that failed in 2024. This is also why I'm extremely critical of the way Nijisanji operates, where despite there being NDAs in place, people that have left the company have talked about the poor working conditions.
Support independent VTubers. The majority of VTuber drama happens behind the scenes because creators know if they bring that drama to the forefront on stream, they are going to be fucked in their career. Because none of these people want to deal with drama. They just don't. And I would love to know a counterpoint to that. The majority of VTuber drama is dealt from behind the scenes because that's kind of how it goes.
Oh shit, here we go again.